Hi. Yep, I have a piece of clothing for this franchise too. It's been so long since I've written a script, I forgot how to start these videos. Here's God of War 2, this is the back of the box. Here's God of War 2 for the PlayStation 2. I have a very similar experience to this franchise as I do with Devil May Cry, whereas my first exposure was mainly just watching my dad play the games when I was a kid. Then, at around 2017, 2018, I was hyping myself up for God of War 4, and I played through all the games for myself for the first time. I guess my dad figured I was finally old enough to experience all the blood and violence for myself. And the nudity. There's a lot of nudity in these games. So, like every franchise I end up enjoying, I got way too into it, as you can very clearly see, and I'm amazed that any of my friends stuck around with me after middle school. And that brings us here, 2005's God of War on the PlayStation 2. Directed by David Scott Jaffe, he was inspired by the likes of Onimusha and said, hey, well, what if we did that but with Greek mythology? And I've always had a somewhat passive interest with Greek mythology, in part because of these games, but I've always been vaguely interested since learning about, all the myths in second grade. The fuck were we learning about Greek mythology in second grade? But David wanted to go all out. The team gave themselves a lot of freedom to change things if they made the game seem cooler or just better in general. Like Medusa's gaze being more akin to Superman's laser eyes as opposed to just being looking at her in general. They took inspiration from films like Clash of the Titans and Gladiator for the visual design. They showed off the game at E3 2004, and after people bitched about the camera, they actually fixed it and released the game to universal acclaim, with accolades such as, God of War is a type of game that makes you remember why you play video games in the first place. That quote is from CNN. But what does CNN know? I'm the only person whose opinion matters. It's my YouTube channel. So you can trust me when I say, yeah, this game is fucking awesome. The story in the game is presented out of order. Most of the big cutscenes are actually flashbacks now that I think about it. So, with some exceptions, I'm going to tell the story in chronological order. So the game starts and Kratos kills himself. That was the exception. Talk about a bold way to start a game. It's advertised as this brutal action game. Blood, magic, murder, nudity, and the first thing you see in the game, in the entire franchise for that matter, is the main character attempting suicide. Before this, Kratos was a Spartan captain, one of the best in history. He was brutal and obsessed with his ambition to spread the glory of Sparta. The only person that gave him peace and made him feel content was his wife Callisto and their daughter Calliope, but she's going to be more important in the future. One day when Kratos was losing a battle, he sold his soul to the god of war Ares in return for his life. Ares saw potential in Kratos, so he took his offer, and as a symbol of his servitude, he gave Kratos the Blades of Chaos, which were burned onto his arms so they couldn't come off. But apparently he could get things under them, because on the cover, the chains were separated from his skin with bandages. Not that that's important, but that's a detail I've always noticed and thought was kind of confusing. Kratos served Ares for years, killing whoever he was told to, until one day when raiding a village for Ares in a blind rage, he accidentally kills his wife and child. Now this shouldn't have been possible, they were back in Sparta, and this was not there. Then, like a fucking dumbass, Ares tells Kratos that he did it. Kratos is holding his wife's dead body. His voice is cracking as he asks how this is possible. Their blood is covering his body, and Ares just pops in like, oh shit, dude, that's fucking awesome. By the way, this may or may not be my fault. And as punishment for being a piece of shit, the ashes of Kratos' family are permanently fused onto his skin, making him known as the Ghost of Sparta. Heh, Sparta. Fucking, it's all connected! Kratos swears revenge and denounces his loyalty to Ares, cause you can just fucking do that apparently. 2 whole prequels happen, and Kratos starts serving all of the other gods in hopes that in return they'll free him from the nightmares he has about everything he's done. The game has a lot of small things to give you an inside look at Kratos' mind, and I feel like ends up being lost in the future games. Like Kratos having a journal, he writes here that no matter how many women he QTEs in bed, they just remind him of his wife, which makes him feel worse. This is very much the only game where we see Kratos' PTSD at its, well, maybe not worst, but it affects him differently than it will in the future, and hell, even the past. When the game actually starts, we get to see a glimpse of Kratos' power and relationship with the gods. Poseidon asks him to kill the Hydra that terrorizes the seas, and gives him a magical power to help. So Kratos kills the Hydra, and by extension this guy. After serving the gods for 10 years, he grows impatient with them and asks Athena when his suffering will end. And she tells Kratos that he has one more near impossible task to complete. Ares is attacking Athens because he's a prick, and the gods can't stop him themselves without the fight risking the destruction of the entire world, so they have to ask Kratos as their servant to go to Athens and kill a fucking god. They don't send him without help though. The gods give Kratos with bits of their power to defeat his enemies. In Athens, the city is getting its ass kicked. Kratos finds an oracle who tells him that the only hope to defeat Ares is by retrieving Pandora's box and using its power. He also meets this guy who has worms in his hair. So Kratos goes to the desert, walks around for 5 minutes looking for these fucking sirens, and climbs to the temple which rests on the back of the Titan Kronos. Also, Kronos looks like a fucking baby from here.
If I were you, I'd leave now.
Dude, I had to climb this thing for 3 days. I'm not going back down. Kratos ventures through Pandora's temple, and despite it being where you spend most of the game, I mean hell, it's on the cover art. Kratos is looking... he's already in Pandora's temple from the looks of it. But nothing really happens here story-wise because most of the cutscenes are the flashbacks to Kratos' past. After completing every trial, Kratos retrieves the box. And how the fuck are we gonna get this thing back to Athens? It took 3 days just to climb up to the entrance. And this thing is heavy. Well, either way, I want to show this thing off to that guy out front. I want to see the look on his face when he sees that I wasn't just another corpse in the halls of Pandora's... shit. Ares found out that Kratos got the box, so he threw a pillar all the way from Athens right into Kratos' chest. And as Kratos sees the minions of Ares take the box, he slowly falls into the underworld. But Kratos isn't out just yet. He's still haunted by the nightmares, even in death. So he kills this guy again and leaves the underworld. As he climbs out, the worm guy reveals that the grave he was digging was to help Kratos escape. Then he disappears. Probably because he's almost definitely one of the gods. Probably Zeus, actually. Kratos gets the box back from Ares and opens it, making him really big. The final battle starts. Kratos isn't here to save Athens. He's here for revenge. This is personal. During the fight, Ares throws Kratos into a flashback to the night he killed his family. Kratos sees them, scared and confused, but he also sees himself. And he swears to save his family this time, to right the wrongs of his past. He fights himself, and like 100 of himself, but no matter how hard he fights, there is no way to return in the past. Ares takes all of Kratos' power and uses it to kill his family in front of him again. Also, he rips the Blades of Chaos off of his arms, and gee, that's brutal as fuck. They were burned on. That means they had to rip all the skin off. Holy shit. Back in the real world with no way to defend himself, he sits down ready to die until he sees another gift from the gods in this bridge that was actually a giant sword. After one final battle, man versus god, Kratos comes out on top with Ares pleading for mercy, to which Kratos drops one of the greatest one-liners in the series.
That night, I was trying to make you a great warrior. You succeeded.
The fighting is done. Kratos returns to the statue of Athena. He did the impossible. He fucked up a god. But the gods pull a dick move and tell Kratos, oh, we forgive you for doing all that fuck shit, but we won't free you from your nightmares. You know, the only thing that you wanted out of this relationship, the only reason you agreed to the task of killing a god. Yeah, no, we're not going to do that for you. Feeling abandoned by the gods and having nothing left to live for, we find ourselves back where we started, with Kratos throwing himself off the highest mountain in Greece. Now, there are a lot of people who have talked about how fucked up Kratos must be mentally at this point, and how impactful it is to have this entire series start with this action, but I think it goes even deeper than a lot of people realize, even those who do give it that credit. The narrator says that Kratos' suffering will finally end once he's dead. But this isn't true, and Kratos knows it. When Ares killed him, he sees that even in death, he won't be free from his endless suffering. And knowing that this won't help in any way, this won't free him, this won't fix anything, he still chooses to end his own life. But the choice isn't his to make. Athena saves him and lifts him back up to the top of the cliff. The gods won't let someone as useful as Kratos kill himself. And as a reward for his service to the gods, they give him the exact opposite of what he wants: immortality. They make him the new god of war. Everything he hated the most. Kratos lost everything because of the God of War, and now he sits on his throne. This is definitely the kind of story you sort of have to dig into to fully appreciate. So on a surface level, it's just pretty much a basic revenge story. It's fucking awesome. You know, the antagonist is a god, you're taking revenge of a god, that's awesome. But it's in the mind of Kratos where things really get interesting, especially with the future games and prequels in mind. Well, of course, we're going to get to those when we get to those. But there's this video by King J. Grimm, I think does a really good job sort of just looking into the mind of Kratos during the Greek saga. It's literally fucking called In the Mind of Kratos. I highly recommend that. It's going to be linked in the description. Check that shit out. That's some good shit right there. Casually, it's an alright story. You kind of have to pay extra attention because I've met people who miss the implication that Kratos' family wasn't supposed to be at the village he attacked. Doesn't help that the flashbacks tend to have long strides of gameplay between them. I like the subtle hints the game throws at you that the gods are going to screw Kratos over. Over? They're going to screw him over, you see. That the gods are going to screw Kratos over. Athena is very distinct with her wording, never promising to free Kratos from his past, just to forgive it. The guy at Pandora's temple tells you that the person who built it went crazy expecting the gods to make his effort worth it until it killed him. And as you read the notes throughout, you see that he slowly starts to realize the gods won't help him or anyone who attempts the temple. Coming to a head when his wife tries to kill him to stop him, as both of their sons were killed in the construction of Pandora's temple. And with nothing left and having realized the gods have forsaken him, he kills himself. The voice acting is also really good. Kratos is voiced by T.C. Carson, who does an amazing job with this game and dresses like a fucking Yakuza character. I think this is actually my favorite direction for his voice, as it's a lot more mellowed out than it would become later. His calm voice for Kratos really gets to shine here. I think that's what it is, along with other emotions that aren't just anger. There's a lot more of that in this game than there will be in the future. The gameplay is brutal. As opposed to Devil May Cry being about mixing up your moves, God of War is about racking up high hit combos. Not that you can't mix things up, but most of the special moves involve Kratos splitting the blades around and then hitting multiple times. You get 4 magic abilities throughout the game: Poseidon's Rage, which is the best ability in the whole series, Medusa's Gaze, which I never use, Zeus's Fury, which is good at killing the annoying archers that keep spawning as you throw them quickly, and Hades' Army, which uses half of your magic but is really broken. Now this may be considered cheating, and I'm sure a few of you have already noticed, but I have infinite magic. The tutorial on how to use Medusa's Gaze is the only time in the game where your magic refills itself, meaning if you clip out of the room, the trigger to turn that off never activates and gives you regenerating magic throughout the whole game. There's an exploit you can do to get extra jumping height, which not only can you use to skip certain puzzles, but it also helps you get out of bounds in this area, hence how you skip the trigger to turn off infinite magic. Now this is technically cheating, but it's fun, so I don't care. Besides, the game is pretty hard, and sometimes it actually feels like it's cheating you, so I feel like I'm allowed to cheat back. Once you get to Pandora's temple, you get the only other weapon in the game, the Blade of Artemis, and I fucking love this thing. It's a powerhouse that cuts fodder enemies down in seconds. You fight all manner of monsters in this temple: minotaurs, gorgons, this fucker, these fuckers, ogres. There's no shortage of enemy variety, and you can use pretty much every combo on all of them. The game has also everyone's favorite gameplay mechanic: quick time events. I don't mind them. That's all I really have to say. Pandora's temple has some dickish puzzles though. For one, there are multiple times you have to push the center area around to certain doors, which takes forever. You have this underwater section with shit boxes. I got stuck in this dumbass sacrifice part when I first played this. This part was actually censored in some regions. Instead of a man pleading for his life, you sacrifice just a regular fodder enemy. And Kratos makes this face, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. Is this really the more appropriate version? He looks like he wants to touch me in my no-no place. I didn't know Jim Carrey did the face modeling. The balancing was annoying, the climbing could have been faster, and fuck the blades in the depths of Hades. The same guy who made this complained about this. Keep that in mind. You use red orbs to upgrade your weapons and magic. For some reason, there's this level on the UI. Every 300 orbs is one level, but on the upgrade screen, it tells you the orb number specifically, and sometimes it's not even a number divisible by 300. And then to make it worse, you have to hold the button to put orbs in the ability, and it's at a set pace, so at the end of the game, and this is right before the final boss, so if I died to Ares, I would come back here, I'd have to open the chest again and go through this upgrade process every fucking time. The levels are pretty well designed, you always have a pretty clear view on where to go, and there are multiple rewards for exploration. You could find Gorgonized to upgrade your health, Phoenix Feathers for magic, though it is annoying how some of the blank chests are just red orbs, which can feel misleading, especially because there are ones marked as red orb chests. Oh, and the soundtrack. Ooh, the soundtrack. I always love playing this game, just racking up high combos on enemies, fighting amazing bosses. Again, the music just fucking, it's awesome. I can highly recommend this game. You were right, CNN, this is some fucking video game. It's not perfect, like I said. It can be ball-bustingly hard to the point of being straight up unfair. A lot of the parts are tedious, especially some of the puzzles towards the end of Pandora's Temple, and the traps are bullshit. Though there's this one point where you have to push a block into a hole, and when it falls, the game completely stops your movement in order to stop you from running right into this trap, which is really helpful. Why wasn't there more stuff like this? Because there are a lot of bullshit traps in this section. Anyway, this game is amazing, and even they knew it would be a hit as the sequels were teased. They outright fucking say it at the end after the credits. And there were sequel concepts in the extras menu, one mentioning Kratos having a brother that wasn't deemed strong enough by Sparta and died in the mountains, who would grow up in the underworld to come back for revenge on Kratos. He looks like fucking Raziel. One being set in the modern era with people finding Pandora's Temple years after the death of Kronos, and I would have loved something like this to be made. Kinda disappointing, but there's no point getting hung up on it now. And one's about Kratos' mother being ridiculed by her village as she doesn't know who Kratos' father is, so she left with him to Sparta, and man, even as a child, Kratos was always fucking pissed. Kratos would remember these events years after this game and return to Sparta to ask his mother who his father really was, but she was cursed not to speak of what she knows, turns into a monster. Kratos kills her, and in her last breath, she drops that Kratos is the son of Zeus. Kinda heavy shit to just drop in the extras menu of the first game, but this is gonna be on the test, so keep that in mind when we get to God of War 2. There's even a phone number you get if you break the statue of Ares. I didn't break it, it takes fucking forever. It's pretty much just Kratos saying, hey cool man, you found the secret message. Then David Jaffe comes in, saying they're making a sequel, and then Kratos kills him. But you also get one for beating God mode that is much more interesting. Usually here's where I'd make a joke about how I can't beat God mode, then I'd Google the phone number, which is actually something that David criticizes in the other phone call. But I did beat God mode. And I do have the number. Even though you can't fucking see it. That is Kratos' phone number. Let's call it.
At last you are here. I have killed the Hydra myself, ripped the head off Medusa's shoulder, even killed a god of Olympus, but I have never seen such skill and strength as yours. You have conquered God mode. The time and dedication you put into reaching this point is worthy of celebration and reward. Sadly, what can I offer one such as you? The keys to Olympus itself? Hardly a gift I'm willing to part with. Perhaps instead, a private tour. Here, come with me. When I first made my way to the throne of Olympus, I noticed this chamber. Impenetrable to all except me. Even Lord Zeus is unaware of its existence. But you will know its secret. Many have asked how I killed an immortal. How can a god itself be destroyed? For your reward, I invite you to gaze upon this. the true fate of Ares. The soul of Ares itself, the soul of war, the soul of hate. See how it rises in pain. See how it struggles to be free, and yet here it stays, unable to breach the walls of this room. What does it want? What is it for? And more importantly, how can I use it when I finally decide to take revenge on him? Answers for another time. Consider yourself privileged, mortal. You have seen the true fate of my enemy. Now go. Our time together is at an end. We will meet again, mortal. I will see you again.
They had this shit planned from the start. Also, spoilers, that goes nowhere. Ares' soul is never brought up again. Just thought I'd mention that. Well, that's one down for God of War. Damn it. So that's one down for God of War. But before we get to God of War 2, we gotta go back to Sonic for Sonic Adventure 2. So, until then, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Subscribe with notifications on to have a man named Emilio come to your house and inform you of every video I ever make. I hope you had a great day, beautiful morning, awesome night. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. And go with the gods, viewer. Go forth in the name of Olympus.